Right now at noon, firefighters respond to a structure fire in Kendricktown where smoke was visible from miles away.
And we've got dangerously cold temperatures out there and still some messy roadways to contend with. A look at that forecast coming up.
Jasper first responders responded to an early morning house fire. Firefighters were called.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Firefighters were called to a structure fire in Kendricktown, north of Carthage this morning. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Melissa Alexis. A former semi-truck wash was caught on fire and smoke was visible from miles away. Carthage Fire, Jasper County deputies, and Mercy Carthage AMB responded. Carthage Fire confirms a man who tried to put out the fire before firefighters arrived was injured, suffering burns to his head. He was taken to a Joplin hospital. Firefighters were called to a house fire early Saturday morning. Around 1:30 a.m., Jasper first responders, along with Carthage, Lamar, Tri-Cities, and Golden City, were called to the resident's home at 307 North Main. The occupants of the home were able to get out safely. Firefighters wasted no time to work to extinguish the flames. The crews were dismissed after 75 minutes. There were no injuries to firefighters, and Red Cross is assisting the displaced residents. Joplin had some icy road conditions, and our Shannon Becker shows us what Joplin roads were looking like after the snow. These are some of the scenes that Shannon Becker showed us, and he says if you don't have to leave the house, it's probably best to stay off of the roads today. You can find links to check out the current road conditions on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Now switching over to Kansas, this is what things were looking like in Pittsburgh. Some kids are sledding and enjoying the winter weather at Schlinger Park. As you can see, there's some slush on the roads, including on Rouse Street. While main streets like Broadway are mostly clear, side streets are still slushy. Let's check in with Chris Warner for a look at the forecast.
And we've got dangerously cold temperatures out there and still some messy roadways to contend with. A look at that forecast coming up.
If there are any closures due to inclement weather from this weekend, we'll have a list as they're submitted on our website and our KOAM News app. You can scan the QR code and bookmark the URL on your phone or download the free KOAM News app from your phone's app store. You'll find closures for schools, government entities, and churches. Again, get the latest list at KOAMnewsnow.com. MoDOT and other departments of transportation want to remind drivers that there are priorities set for which roads are cleared first. They understand each road is a priority to drivers, but they say there just aren't enough workers or trucks to clear all highways immediately. MoDOT says the most efficient job is the one that will impact the most drivers, which sets the priority. For information on your local city and county streets, residents should contact your local government. Coming up, Congress convenes this afternoon to certify the results of the 2024 election. And later, we're making Amish country casserole in the Mr. Food test kitchen. Tomorrow marks 5 days since the attack and the start of carnival season. President Joe Biden is expected to touch down in New Orleans hours before 12th night parades roll. In light of this week's tragedy, Carnival crews are beefing up security. Lily Cummings has details on what to expect.
Less than a week after a tragedy that rocked New Orleans, crews are marching forward with carnival season. For 42 years, Funny 40 Fellows has kicked off the season with a streetcar ride down St. Charles Avenue.
Because historically, we consider ourselves the heralds of carnival.
But this year will be different.
We do have enhanced security this year, but that is something we were planning anyway.
The crew plans to have RTA and private security along the uptown route.
I think that there'll probably be more vehicles accompanying us because everybody wants safety first.
Funny 40 Fellows isn't the only 12th night parade. Blocks away from where a terrorist killed 14 and injured more than 30 others on New Year's Day, the Joan of Arc parade will roll through the French Quarter. In the wake of the attack, Joan of Arc says it's adding additional volunteers and a barrier rope to divide crowds from the horses and children that lead the parade.
The ropes and adding the additional people was a response to what we felt was needed to make everyone a little safer. We certainly are doing some other things too. We have a person coming who has some Homeland Security training who'll be talking to our volunteers at the beginning of the parade, just what to look for, what to be aware of. Of course, we don't ask anyone to do any type of response who isn't properly trained, but we do want to make our volunteers aware of what they should be looking for, just as any citizen should be doing.
The crew says the National Guard and NOPD will be present. Before the attack, NOPD suggested Joan of Arc tweak its route and push the start time to 8 p.m. to avoid after-work traffic. Traffic may also be impacted by President Joe Biden's visit to the French Quarter. As the world mourns with New Orleans, these crews say they're confident revelers will be safe.
We wouldn't do it if we didn't think so.
Lily Cummings, WWL, Louisiana.
Still to come on KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Today, we're cooking up an Amish home-style meal the easy way. Stick around. I'll show you how it's done.
And we've got those bitterly cold temperatures. They're going to stick around for a little bit, and there may be a little bit of wintry weather later this week. Details when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM News at noon. So we had a very cold start to the day. It still feels very cold because of those gusting north winds, and it's going to stay cold for at least a while longer. Let's take a look outside from this morning, downtown Pittsburgh, and you can see Broadway starting to look better this morning, even early this morning. Crews again, my hat is off to these folks, and we really need to thank these plow workers because they've really put in a lot of work early this morning trying to get roadways ready for those of us who don't have a choice. You've got to go to work. There's a number of professions out there that you do have to go regardless what the weather is like. And again, our hat is off to those folks that are taking care of things. You can see still not perfect, but progress is being made. Now, the concern, though, is all of these crews are working to melt some of this snow, and that's going to leave wet spots, which with our cold temperatures, especially into the overnight, some of that could potentially refreeze, leading to black ice concerns as we head into tomorrow morning's commute. So I'm sure a lot of the roads will be clear enough for schools and businesses and everybody to kind of get back to work and back to business, but you're going to want to watch out for that black ice if you're commuting tomorrow morning, just because, again, you can't really see it. You got to still go slow because you don't know you're on it until you're in the ditch or your car is sliding around on the road. So still be careful tomorrow morning. For the rest of today, again, we'll have that mix of partly, maybe even some mostly cloudy skies here and there. Gusty winds, putting our wind chills back into the single digits out there, maybe even a little below zero in some cases as we head through the afternoon. Now, the future track, don't need to spend a lot of time on it here in the short term, simply because other than the clouds here and there and the cold temperatures, there's nothing expected precipitation-wise over the next 3 days. But that changes a little later down the road, and we're going to dive into that here in just a moment. For the rest of today, though, again, partly cloudy skies, wind chills 0 to 5 below, with those winds out of the north gusting to 25, highs upper teens and low 20s. We go into tonight, the winds ease up a bit, but again, when it's 10 degrees, even a light breeze will bring that wind chill down. So we're talking wind chills tonight for most of us around 0 to 5. Some of us will be a little less than 10 degrees, some of us a little more. I think we all should at least be on the positive side of 0 with the north breeze at around 5 to 10 miles an hour. Now, as we head into tomorrow, still cold, few clouds, and north winds, thankfully still light, but it's enough. It's going to make it feel cold. 5 to 10, highs upper 20s for most of us, but those wind chills will be back into the upper teens and low 20s as we go through the day. So I mentioned the possibility of some additional wintry precipitation out there. So here's what we're going to look at. Wednesday, again, we're mostly clear. It's still cold out there, which means it'll be cold Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Now, the future track is showing this. I'm going to go over something with you. There's still a lot of variables out here, but this particular future track shows maybe some light snow moving in as early as 6 o'clock Thursday. Now, at this point, the more likely scenario is some light snow on Friday, but this is one possibility where if this plays out, we're looking at a slightly more significant snow, because this is going into Friday morning and it lasts almost a solid 18 hours of potential snow. That's one possibility. At this point, it looks to be just some light flurries on Friday, but I wanted to show you that as one other possibility that we are watching for Friday. So we want to keep a close eye on Friday between here and there. It is cold, little warmer Thursday. We'll keep a very sharp eye on Friday for you, and potentially Thursday. And then after that, though, we head into the weekend. Yeah, it's not super warm, but we're seasonably warm, going back into the upper 30s and low 40s. Melissa?
Stick around, we're making Amish country casserole in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. We'll be right back. It's cold outside, and Howard has the perfect comfort meal. He's making Amish country casserole in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
When it comes to Amish cooking, there's no question that the Amish know what they're doing in the kitchen. Whether it's making shoe fly pie or scrapple, Dutch cabbage rolls or slippery pot pie, Amish cooking means hearty, wholesome, and made the old-fashioned way. Today, we're making an Amish-inspired casserole, except we're using a few off-the-shelf shortcuts that will make it weeknight easy. We start by browning a good amount of ground beef, along with a chopped onion and a bit of minced garlic. While that finishes up, we drain some cooked egg noodles and set them aside. Now that our beef is done, we add it to the same pot we cooked our pasta in, along with our drained noodles. To give this dish its creaminess, we toss in cream of mushroom soup, some milk, a splash of Worcestershire sauce, tomato soup, and a few spices. After it's all mixed, we'll spoon it into a baking dish and into the oven it goes until it's heated through and the top is all crispy. There you have it, a dish that's simple to make, full of flavor, and is sure to bring your family around the table. To get the recipe for our Amish country casserole, all you have to do is visit our website. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an Amish-inspired way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot of more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at the 4 state market prices. You can't hear, they're not saying anything, but I can hear them. The Route 66 Hot Wheels Collectors Club met in Joplin Saturday. The newly formed organization is based in Joplin, saving members the drive to other clubs like Springfield or Tulsa. The club is centered around trading, swapping, and selling of the Hot Wheels toy line collectors from the area stopped at the Clubhouse, a vintage toy and game store off of 12th and Main, to see what the meeting had to offer and to learn more about the club.
I wanted something here in the Joplin area. So I started asking people about it, and a lot of people showed a lot of interest. So I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and start one.
The group's founder, Jason Eastus, will have a booth of collectibles at the upcoming Veterans Flea Market in Joplin on January 17th and 18th. The collectors meet the first Saturday of every month. 4 years to the day after a violent mob of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol and interrupted Congress as lawmakers gathered to certify Joe Biden's presidential win, Congress is convening in a joint session, this time to certify Donald Trump's 2024 presidential election win. Natalie Brand reports from Washington, D.C.
Tight security around the U.S. Capitol serves as a reminder of what happened 4 years ago on January 6th. Then a mob of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol to try to stop the certification of Joe Biden's presidential election victory.
I hope that some of them might feel a ping from it if they see me.
Washington, D.C. police officer Daniel Hodges, who was beaten in a doorway during the riot, is attending today's session as a guest of Democratic Senator Adam Schiff.
It'll be my honor to make it as uncomfortable as possible for the GOP members who try to whitewash that day and lie about what happened and pretend that we didn't save them.
Nearly 1,600 people have been charged for their roles in the January 6th attack, some carrying weapons like bear spray, knives, and flagpoles. Of those, 1,000 have pleaded guilty and 600 were charged with assaulting or resisting police. With President-elect Donald Trump set to take office in a few weeks, the federal election interference case against him has been dropped. On the eve of today's certification, supporters of January 6th defendants held their nightly vigil outside the Washington, D.C. jail.
It was not an insurrection. It was the people going to the Capitol to voice their opinion.
Trump has pledged pardons for the rioters, but he's yet to specify if it will be for all or just some. Critics warn that would undermine the criminal justice system and rule of law. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
While the outgoing U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C. says the department continues to pursue cases against those facing charges related to January 6th, defendants have been asking judges to pause their cases or delay their proceedings ahead of Trump's inauguration. Now we'll have Chris with the weather.
All right, so again, upper teens, low 20s today. Cold weather continues through at least Thursday morning. Keeping an eye on Friday. Some light flurries expected, but there is that possibility of a little more snow, so we'll keep close watch on that. Into the weekend, though, we are seasonably warm as we go back into the upper 30s and low 40s.
Thanks, Chris. Now we'll have Dow with what's coming up at 5.
Yeah, lots coming up at 5. For starters, after a relatively slow start to respiratory virus season, the U.S. is kicking off 2025 with a surge in several illnesses: flu, RSV, and COVID. We're going to take a look at the details and where it's the worst. Plus, we're going to hear about the need for warming centers in the 4-state area, including in Joplin. It is cold out there. And we're going to hear from AAA about how to protect yourself from black ice. So if you join us for those stories, a lot more, of course, coming up on KOAM News at 5. The weather is still relatively severe out there. The streets not as bad as they could be, but certainly they are slick. People need to be careful, and it's cold out there as well.
Very cold, and black ice is something to be careful of. It can be very deceiving.
Exactly. That's the ice that isn't visible necessarily, and it can make those roads slicker than they appear, and in fact, especially bad on overpasses where the wind goes underneath and gets things so cold. And plus, even though it's thawing in some places today because of the chemicals on the road, as it cools tonight, those roads are likely to refreeze and may be dangerous. People need to be cautious.
Absolutely. Definitely recommend probably going about reducing by 20 or so. That's what I did on my way to work, at least.
We were slow, especially in town. It's when the highways might appear more clear. And if you can, you want to stay in, right?
Absolutely.
Watch KOAM.
Absolutely.
Stay up to date with our weather forecast.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you so much. That's it for our news today. You can join us today at 5. Have a great rest of your day.